In 678, an Arab fleet surrounded Constantinople for the first time in its history, and by any reasonable calculation, this was exactly where the empire ended. The Byzantine Empire had already lost Egypt and Syria in one single stunning decade of relentless and unstoppable Arab conquest, and up to that point, nothing at all had managed to stop it. Then a refugee engineer named Kallinikos arrived in the great city all the way from Syria, carrying a secret formula he flatly refused to explain to anyone at all. It turned out to be a strange, thick liquid that could be pumped hard through a bronze siphon nozzle and somehow set the entire open sea itself on fire. Byzantine military engineers quickly and very carefully mounted the device onto the prow of their largest warships, then sailed them straight out toward the waiting enemy fleet. The flame stuck stubbornly to wood, to sails, even to bare skin, and pouring water directly on it only made the fire spread even faster. The entire Arab fleet burned in the water just outside the city walls, and the siege that should have ended Byzantium simply ended instead. Constantinople survived completely against every reasonable expectation, and Greek fire instantly became the empire's single most closely guarded secret of all time. The exact formula was never fully written down anywhere at all, taught only by solemn oath to a small handful of deeply trusted men. Even some Byzantine emperors themselves reportedly claimed they did not personally know the complete recipe at all, and perhaps quite a few of them genuinely didn't either. In the year 717, the Arab forces tried to attack once again, laying a long and difficult siege to the great imperial city for well over a full year this time around. The bronze siphons rolled out once again, and once more the entire attacking navy burned down completely to nothing in the water. Word of this terrifying weapon began traveling far faster across the region than the weapon itself could ever physically be deployed. Enemy sailors reportedly fled in total panic the very instant they merely spotted the bronze tubes mounted along an approaching Byzantine ship's bow. For centuries and centuries afterward, Byzantium's fearsome reputation alone quietly did much of the actual fighting before a single flame was ever even lit. Historians today still argue endlessly about the actual ingredients involved: naphtha, sulfur, quicklime, pine resin, and possibly even saltpeter. The Byzantines happily let that whole mystery work entirely in their own favor, while rival empires spent whole generations just endlessly trying to guess. Foreign spies who got too close to the secret were simply executed, and the siphon operators swore lifelong silence under solemn oath. That secrecy was really the entire point. Nobody could ever steal a weapon that nobody was ever actually told how to properly build. But guarding a secret that completely comes with a hidden cost that nobody ever really plans for in advance. In the year 1204, the Fourth Crusade sacked Constantinople itself, an almost unthinkable betrayal carried out entirely by fellow Christians. The empire's entire archives, its many workshops, and a great number of trained specialists were all scattered and completely destroyed in the resulting citywide chaos. And somewhere deep inside that terrible collapse, the small handful of people who still actually knew the real formula simply stopped existing entirely. By the time the empire finally tried very hard to rebuild itself, the exact composition of Greek fire was already permanently and completely gone forever. Later, Byzantine writers still described using the weapon, but by then their surviving instructions no longer actually worked. Modern chemists have spent literal centuries trying hard to reverse engineer it from fragments of old, half-understood surviving description. Every single modern reconstruction gets reasonably close, and yet not one of them has ever been confirmed as the real, authentic thing. The very same weapon that had saved an entire empire for 500 long and straight years could not, in the very end, ultimately survive its own extreme secrecy. Something built specifically so that no enemy could ever copy it also eventually turned out to be something nobody could ever preserve. Constantinople still stands today in the old paintings. The siphon still sits mounted quietly on the prow, but the fire inside it, nobody alive can ever light again.